a world-renowned Pan-African leader, a visionary, a philanthropist, Daddy Marcus, Jamaica's gift to the world. Today we celebrate the 127th anniversary of his birthday, and what better place to be than Liberty Hall, where Garvey conducted meetings to liberate the minds of men. Hi, I'm Arroyo Eubanks. We have so much more in store for you, including more on the life of national hero Marcus Garvey. Our weekly current affairs program will highlight the achievements in math and provide answers on maintaining the gains achieved. There's also a little entertainment, so please stay with us.
Householders, business people, school administrators, protect yourself and your children from the chikungunya virus. Be on the alert. Help control the mosquito population. Chikungunya is a virus transmitted by the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which breeds in and around your home, workplace, and school. Destroy breeding sites. Empty old tires and all other containers where water can settle. Bore holes in old cans. Cover water drums and garbage cans. Wash flower pots and vases and clean pet dishes regularly. Protect yourself from mosquito bites. Cover your body as much as possible and use mosquito repellent containing DEET. And if you're experiencing symptoms of chikungunya, a sudden high fever, headache, rash, nausea, pain, stiffness, or severe joint pains, see your doctor or go to the nearest health center.
This is inside the Garvey Multimedia Computer Center. Here, hundreds of persons from downtown and other areas of Jamaica come to learn about Garvey and Black Pride, continuing his advocacy for education. The great man once said, "A reading man and woman is a ready man and woman, but a writing man and woman is exact." Well, a number of teens are now ready to take on the world, having scored high marks in the recent Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate CSEC exams. Next on Issues and Answers, National Math Coordinator Dr. Tamika Benjamin helps us with a closer look at this year's math figures and the plans to keep the momentum going.
Candidates recorded improved performance in 12 subjects. Could we deal with the very important subject of mathematics first? Of those who sat this year, 23,351 sat compared to 22,870 last year, an increase of 481. And you can understand how happy I am to report that mathematics enjoyed the largest increase of passes of 13 percentage points.
Thanks for joining us for Issues and Answers. I'm Ian Boyne. The country has been buoyed with the news that there has been a 13% increase in math passes in CSEC. We have with us today the National Mathematics Coordinator at the Ministry of Education, Dr. Tamika Benjamin. We thank you for your company. Dr. Benjamin, good to have you on the show. Here. There's a lot of excitement about the improvement. Even a 5% improvement in math performance is welcome, and therefore the 13% even more so. To what would you attribute this? What have we been doing right?
I think the first thing is using a lot of data to drive decision making. And so a couple of years ago, we determined that we were going to be a little bit more targeted in our approach. We looked at the CSEC data for all the schools in the island, and we noted two trends, two groups of schools, or three groups of schools. Those schools for which a significant number of their students were sitting and passing. Another group where a significant number was sitting, but the pass rate was not at the level we would have wanted. And in analyzing further, we noted a significant number of those students were actually attaining grade 4s. And so we placed those schools, there was about 36 schools in our group, and we said they were on the cusp. And then there was another group of schools that were just very weak, very low levels, low percentages of the cohort was sitting. And then even if they passed, the passes were very weak. And so we became more targeted in our approach to providing support to those schools. Started with a number of workshops to build capacity, focusing on content and pedagogy. Worked with NCEL to facilitate the training, leadership training for HODs and for principals. And we managed to cover all the secondary schools, regardless of which group they fell in. But we made those two groups of schools, those two, the middle and the bottom group,
focus.
they were given priority in terms of the training. And we have worked with a number of private partners. The Insurance Association sponsored a series of workshops held island-wide. And those would have been focused, again, using the CXC reports and the data. We would have identified the weak areas and focused our attention on building teacher capacity in those areas. In addition to that, those schools would have received support from the national math team. We have in each educational region a coordinator and specialists. And they would have responded as the schools would have needed in facilitating further training on the ground in the schools. So there's been a number of things that have taken place that I think have contributed to the growth. When we analyze the data for this year, those schools in the on-the-cusp group have seen more significant growth. I think for them, it's an average of 32%
32%?
increase in their performance for that group of schools.
That's
right?
significant.
It's a little lower for the other schools, and that's expected because they have much more ground to cover. But we are pleased with the results, and we're at a point now of evaluating what was done and determining what we're going to do to ensure we keep those schools. The temptation often, you begin to get there, we pull back, but we know that we have to sustain the support in order to ensure we sustain the growth.
The matter of having math coaches is one of the important elements of the thrust toward improved math education. Let's talk a little bit about that, the rationale of that.
Okay. You want to build capacity. That's our problem. We know that we have a significant percentage of our teachers at the secondary level who are teaching outside of their discipline. They're tenured. It would be pointless to ignore that. So we have to find a way to build the capacity of those persons and to get them to be able to function at a level where they can function as specialists in the area, which is what they should be. The regional team of a coordinator and two specialists, in some regions you may have 30, 40 secondary schools. It will be much difficult for them to cover. The idea is to increase the support on the ground. And research tells you that two things are important if you want to build capacity. You want to facilitate it in training, but you want to offer support in implementation, because people will develop the skills or acquire the skills or learn the skills in training, but they have a difficulty implementing it, especially if they're not a specialist. And that's where the coach is going to come in. They will be responsible for working with the teachers on the ground, facilitating professional development within the schools. And at the primary level, this is not something we're just doing at the secondary level. The coaches will be assigned to one school, and they will be there for full-time for a year. So the school will benefit from the support of the coach for a year, while at the secondary level, one coach will serve 3 to 5 schools for a period of 2 years. We are also implementing to supplement that a model that was the genesis of the permanent secretary, which we're calling math resource teachers, where we're going to pull on teachers in the system who don't have, they oftentimes don't have a timetable that has them teaching every hour of the day, as well as retired teachers. And we will employ them to target specific schools close to where they are located. Based on those numbers, we will have more than 100 persons supporting the system for the next school year.
That's innovative. We have other issues that we want to talk about related to that. We're discussing the improved math performance in the CSEC exams. We have with us the National Mathematics Coordinator, Dr. Tamika Benjamin. We take a short break.
The Ministry of Education is informing parents that students in grades 1 to 3 are now required to purchase only 2 textbooks. One in language arts and one in mathematics. Those in grades 4 to 6 need only buy a total of 4 books: language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. At the secondary level, students in grades 7 and 8 require 3 supplementary textbooks in literature, while grade 9 students need 5.
take the book list to our regional offices or our central offices. Let us look at those book lists and let us see if they meet the guidelines.
For further information on the new textbook policy, contact the Ministry of Education at 922-140029.
Welcome back. The National Mathematics Coordinator at the Ministry of Education, Dr. Tamika Benjamin, is our guest on Issues and Answers. What are the vital next steps that the ministry needs to make to continue the thrust toward improved math performance in our schools?
Well, the first thing I'd say, I think our approach has been to develop a program that's comprehensive, and I think our next step is to remain focused. The challenge sometimes is to divert, and so we want to remain focused and consistent. So we have a policy document that was implemented last year. There are aspects of it that we are working towards ensuring become a part of the system. We have to make sure that we continue to do that. And that's for our long-term goals. The main elements of it would speak to ensuring certain standards are met in the schools. Contact hours, minimum contact hours are honored in all of our schools, as well as improving the quality of teachers who enter our teacher training institutes. The structure of those programs, we've done a lot of work, and they will be required to meet the new UCJ established standards. Those standards were changed to respond to the policy, and that new implementation date is September 2015. Another aspect of it will impact teachers who are employed to be math teachers, and already we're seeing greater levels of sensitivity of our principals in who they employ and tenure in their math departments. And so that, of course, will have an impact, because the more qualified persons we have in the schools, that will automatically improve the quality of instruction in our schools. We have to continue to identify the weaknesses, and that's not just looking at the schools, but looking at the areas where there are weaknesses. So we have to look at continuing to analyze results from all national assessments, from the CSEC, not just look at how many passed and failed, but drilling down to identify the areas that are weak and building capacity of teachers in those areas. And then the last part is the more effective side, and that's built around changing the culture. And we have started to do a lot of work there. Next week, we'll actually be launching a public education campaign in the middle of the training of our coaches. So there'll be a lot going on, jingles, things will be seen all over the place. But
what would be the stress of this public education campaign?
It's more targeted at helping people to recognize math is practical. It's in everything you do. That's to demystify it, to help people to realize, you're using math to do almost anything you're doing in the day, to do your budget, to determine whether you're going to need eggs in 2 days or 3 days or 1 week. Just simple things, and to help people to also appreciate the many fields of life that we often say we like to go into that require mathematical competencies, because that sometimes works as a motivator for students. So it's really just stressing the importance and the significance of mathematics from everyday life to our personal lives to our careers.
There are many persons, as you were hinting, who are intimidated by math, who think that they are not bright enough, that they are not sharp enough for math, that math requires a competence that they don't have. How do we begin to break that down?
I think the most effective way of breaking it down is to help persons see the link between what we're doing in the classroom and what we're doing in everyday life. And teaching math in isolation helps to perpetuate that fear. So if I'm going to talk about area, most people have been in a place where the floor was tiled. Bringing that into the classroom and helping persons to appreciate what we mean when we speak about area by getting very practical is one way of doing it. If I'm going to speak about volume, I shouldn't really be speaking about it in a vacuum. I should create context where we're filling containers and looking at how much water this can hold and so on. It's about getting practical. It's about helping persons to also see that the very same ideas that they use to, we always talk about the guys at the stoplights, who or even children who go to the market with their parents and are extremely proficient in calculating change and make very little errors, but struggle in the classroom because there is a disconnect between the real life use of the concepts and what happens in the classroom. And I think one way of breaking that down is just for our teachers to be more practical, to help students to see the relevance. So, you know, there's a part of the CSEC syllabus that speaks to consumer arithmetic and hire purchase. I've always said, why not take a field trip to Courts or Singer? And you can compare cash price versus hire purchase price and see, it's also a means of educating our children as to see what would be the best option to save my money or to go this route. It's just being practical and real with the math that we're learning.
Are we producing enough math teachers, math specialists?
We're actually looking at a program right now to implement, to not just increase the numbers. We're actually trying now to analyze how many we have, how many are projected to retire when, and to begin to see what we can do to stimulate increased interest in the area. We hope that certainly by the next academic year that would have been implemented. I don't want to preempt anybody there, but we are actually analyzing now the numbers of math teachers we actually have, fully qualified math teachers we have, how many we will need, when, and to begin the process of increasing the numbers.
Well, last month you were in Singapore, one of the top performing countries in education. How valuable was that? An
absolutely valuable experience. It was 1 week well spent. It was a group of 8 of us that traveled to Singapore. 4 of us, where our specialization was mathematics. We had the opportunity to visit a primary and secondary school and engage with persons in their polytechnics, universities, and TVET institutions, as well as their 2 main. And most of all, I think the experience that impacted us most was engagement with their sole teacher training institute. They only have 1 teacher training institute in Singapore that trains and deploys 2,000 teachers per year to their system. And that experience was life-changing for us. It helped us to develop a perspective on how they have been able to manage quality. And also, the second thing would be their approach to curriculum development, and some of those things are things we're already beginning to discuss at the ministry implementation.
And we're pumping 300 million in
300
mathematics.
300 million per annum over the next 4 years.
In mathematics education.
In mathematics education.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tamika Benjamin, National Mathematics Coordinator, speaking to us about the significant results in the performance of our students, our CSEC students in mathematics this year. Next week I'll be back. Until then, Ian Bourne wishing you a pleasant day.
Stressed, family problems, relationship problems, money tight? Choose to overcome. Choose to survive. Choose life. Struggling with suicidal thoughts? Speak to a counselor. Call the Mental Health Unit at the Ministry of Health at 967-1646 or contact Choose Life International at 920-7924. Choose life. Say no to suicide.
In the next 2 features, we will be highlighting the works of Jamaica's first national hero, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, who was born on this day in 1887 in St. Anne. First, we look back at the life of this philosopher who inspired millions.
A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots.
A boy of humble beginnings, taking his first steps towards a life decorated and defined by the search for a proud black identity. The journey began on August 17, 1887, in a rural district nestled in the Garden Parish of St. Anne, where the union of a mason and a domestic worker birthed a living legacy of black self-empowerment.
When you hear him describe his mother, Sarah Jane Garvey, she had a different kind of influence on him. I think that he inherited a lot of her sense of compassion.
Marcus also inherited much from his father, Marcus Mosiah Garvey Sr. Together, his parents gave him a strong foundation, starting at 32 Market Street in St. Anne's Bay. The Universal Negro Improvement Association, the Pan-African Movement, the Negro Factories Corporation, the Black Star Liner Shipping Company, all symbols of achievement to which Garvey could lay claim. But his life was more than the public platform familiar to most. Garvey was equal parts Pan-Africanist and father, equal parts orator and husband, scholar and son, national hero and lifetime student. As a young boy, Garvey developed a love of reading, first from his father's private library, and later the more extensive collection of his godfather Alfred Burroughs. An apprenticeship with Burroughs at age 14 provided a platform for literary expression through the printing press. It's an influence that would find expression in several newspaper developments and publications throughout Garvey's life. Even as he trod the path of visionary, philosopher, and scholar, Marcus Garvey was a family man. After a long courtship, he married Amy Ashwood in a private Catholic church ceremony, followed by an elaborate public ceremony and reception at Liberty Hall on Christmas Day, 1919. The union didn't last. But Garvey found love and family life again with his longtime secretary, Amy Jakes. The two married in July 1922 and had two sons, Marcus Jr. and Julius.
You can see letters that they wrote to each other when his sons were in Jamaica and he was in England. He has nicknames for them. He speaks to them the same way a loving father would speak to any child.
From the dirt tracks in a small rural community to a global stage promoting change, the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey was the epitome of ambition.
When you look at his background versus what he was able to achieve in a very, very short time period, you have to recognize that it was ambition that was driving him. But most importantly, he had ambition not just for himself, but for people of his race. He wanted black people to be liberated in every sense of the word, not just physically, but mentally, economically, socially, and so on.
On June 10, 1940, a nation lost a hero. Humanity lost a world changer. Marcus Garvey was finally laid to rest in 1964 in Jamaica after 52 short years. The man from St. Anne's Bay had given black people a new way of looking at themselves. He'd told them to embrace their identity, that they could achieve anything.
Up your mighty race! Accomplish what you will!
No one remember old Marcus Garvey. No one remember old Marcus Garvey.
Also located here at Liberty Hall is a multimedia museum where everyone can come and learn about the hero's fight against racial discrimination. Garvey launched the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League in Jamaica in 1914. He was aiming for the self-determination of all African people. By the 1930s, there were more than 1,000 divisions of the UNIA throughout the world. The organization is commemorating 100 years of existence. Coming up, a tribute to the UNIA's movement from the recent Independence Day Grand Gala.
founded by the right excellent Marcus Messiah Garvey, right here in Jamaica on July 20, 1914. The Universal Negro Improvement Association, UNIA, and the African Communities League maintains its vision of African unity and self-reliance established a century ago. The colors of the flag represent red, the blood that unites all people of black African ancestry and shed for liberation, black. Black people whose existence as a nation, though not a nation state, is affirmed by the existence of the flag. And green, the abundant natural wealth of Africa.
Triumph of the right and spread confusion ever o'er the advocates of might. And let them know that righteousness is mightier than sin, that might is only selfishness and cannot or not win. Endow us, Lord, with faith and grace and courage to endure the wrongs we suffer here apace, and bless us evermore. One God, one aim, one destiny.
Garvey said, "Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will." This philosophy of Garvey's is very important for us going into the 21st century. Our children need to learn that they have the capability and capacity to be anything that they wish to be. They need to know that the word can't should not appear in their vocabulary. They need to know that if they learned their African history about who they are, they would not think that their history began a mere 400 years ago. They'd be taught that their history began millions of years ago. In fact, they are the descendants of the very first people to walk on the face of the earth. This is the essence of Garvey. This is what Garvey was teaching us, that we need to learn, we need to educate ourselves about who we are in order for us to keep moving forward into the 21st century. He also said that until Africa is strong and free, Africans, wherever they are, living throughout the world, will always be disrespected. So we must learn to build not only Jamaica, but we must build the continent from which we come, Africa.
You may have heard these words before, but they still ring true. If you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. Follow the words of Garvey in your daily living, and more than likely, success will be yours at work, in education, and even at play. We hope you enjoyed today's program and found the information useful. If you'd like more details on the topics explored, visit our website, jis.gov.jm. The highly visited web portal provides loads of information on matters of education, culture, and other relevant issues. Also, if you have a Twitter account, follow us at JIS News. And for comments or suggestions, drop us a line at jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Arroyo Eubanks. Have a wonderful day.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.